that's all I wanted to say, but that was kind of my rant for today. We're gonna go to Alex in Dallas, who wants to talk about what what's your topic? I don't have a topic.
Oh yeah, how are y'all doing?
Good. What's up?
So I just wanted to talk about the utility of religion. So I'm religious. I consider myself religious. I am Hindu. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say, like, I think a lot of your criticisms that you have of religion tend to be of like a very specific, like Abrahamic religions that I believe are dogmatic. I used to be an atheist, so I have like I know, and I have like criticisms myself of like dogmatic religions, of like cult-like doctrines. I think you can draw a lot of parallels between Abrahamic religions and New Age cults such as Scientology. And like, yeah, I guess that can exist when it's practiced a specific way. But I just want to know that, like, I just want to at least bring up a point that I think religion does have a lot of utility for society. And so, like, yeah, I just want to get into that discussion.
Yeah, if it's okay, I would just like to say that I've said before that liberal religions tend to be religions that people use in order to support community and family, right? So that's when a person that's a liberal religious person generally looks at religion as something that they can incorporate as one more tool to support their community and family goals, right? So it's just like when you take your kids to soccer because Tammy has got a soccer game tomorrow and we're all going to go and we'll take a picnic and we'll have fun and we'll cheer on Tammy and support Tammy. And it's a way that our family brings the family together. And when we go down to our local church and we go to church, we're really just there because I want to teach my kids about charity and we're going to do the food pantry and we're going to listen to stories about civic mindedness and how to be a good person and love everybody, and that's kind of what our church is about. And those people, if their child grows up and says, I'm an atheist, they're like, okay, what else? And so then you've got, though, like you're saying, right, there's these other dogmatic churches, and I'm not going to harp on that because I know that's not the topic of your call, but those are the more harmful aspects of religion that we see where, for example, I call that the church using the family, right? So in the liberal tradition, the family uses the church as a support, but in these conservative religions, what you see is the church using the families to propagate the religion and to support the religion, right? So when that happens, what happens is we all go to church, not because it's like a good family thing. That's what they'll say, right? And they'll say, this is supports our family, and this is so positive, and it's all rainbows and flowers until... What? Until Tammy says, I'm an atheist, right? And all of a sudden, you're also not my daughter anymore. Goodbye. Get out of this house. I don't want you to talk to your younger siblings about it. Or I'm going to force you to go to church because I don't care what you believe as my child. This is more important than anything. And you're not going to stop going to church while you live in my house. And you see what I'm saying? So in one instance, the religion kind of controls everything. And in another instance, the religion is used as a tool. And I do not disagree with you that both of those things exist concurrently and can be uses of religion. So I think we may be on the same page to some degree.
Yeah. I do think that, it's all sunshine and rainbows until Tammy decides to leave. And I think part of the reason why I think you see this beautiful community suddenly turn very antagonistic is, in a lot of ways, they find it to be like this perfect sunshines and rainbows type of culture. And then as soon as someone disagrees with it, they feel like it's falling apart. And I think that's when you see the viciousness arise out of the community. It's like, oh my God, like, because they feel like, oh my God, our culture is falling apart. What I believe to be so helpful to me, which is like, guided my spirituality, which guided my happiness, which guided my purpose in life, is suddenly falling apart. And therefore I need to act in this antagonistic way and like throw you out of the house.
Yeah, but there's other families where it's just like, okay, it's your choice. And if you want to be a Buddhist, that's fine. We're totally cool with it. Can we come see the temple with you? It just depends on the people. But at the same time, someone described it one time as I heard Jeff D describe it this way, but I don't know if this is original to him. But I just want to say that's where I got it, right? So one day Jeff described this as a gun that can shoot both real bullets and blanks, right? So basically he's saying religion is there And you can pull the trigger and nobody gets hurt, or you could pull the trigger and people get hurt. And it's a tool that has immense power, right? I mean, when people get hurt because of religion, they get badly hurt. When people are helped by it, a lot of times they think they're like very, very greatly helped, right? Like they'll call up and say, it changed my life. And other people will say, it got my family killed, right? So this is an immensely powerful tool.
Sure. Right. I agree. So the first question I want to ask you guys, I know you guys are left. I just want to know the extent of your left-wing beliefs of what would you, if you were to describe your political views, what would you say? Are you like Hillary Clinton left, or Bernie Sanders left, or perhaps left of that?
Well, I don't know. Ask me like a couple issues that you think would be telling, and I'll tell you if I have opinions on them. Maybe that'll help you tell me what you think, because I don't. Sure. I have no.
Sure. What do you think that capitalist structures should maintain or be? Do you think like the means of production should be owned by a society, or do you think private ownership is a good thing to an extent? If you're
okay. So for me, ultimately, I think that society has the right to choose its economic model, and that we can make it work in most ways. I generally, personally, am not huge on capitalism, and I personally don't like competition.
Yeah, capitalism is responsible for the earth being pillaged, and so it's inherently not working.
But if we're gonna choose it, right? Like if a social group that I'm in says we're gonna use this system fully or partially or whatever, I'm not going to. My whole thing would be, well, let's try to use it like you say, it's a powerful tool, right? Your economy and your economic model is a powerful tool, and if you're going to use any economic model, you're gonna have to really look at it and say, are we going to use this to abuse people, or are we going to use this to support people? I think that you could. It gets hard in my mind. It kind of gets harder with capitalism. I believe in like teamwork and working together. I've never, even since I was a child, never liked the idea that I would gain from somebody else losing. I've never liked that feeling.
Exactly. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think it's super funny that like you have a lot of right-wing Christians who are so. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So. Okay, my phone made a weird noise. Okay, so, I think it's really funny that you have like a lot of right-wing Christians, and even in India, you have a lot of right-wing Hindus, and you would think that the goal of Christianity is to like help everybody, and for Hinduism, like all life is sacred, and you want to help the trees and plants because they also contain the same souls that are in humans, and we're all one. That's like Hindu theology, and like it's so funny that you have these people lie about science, right? About like global warming.
Well, it's funny. Can I interrupt you for a minute? Because we so rarely get to talk about anything other than like Christianity. Now and then we might get a Muslim call or whatever, but you rarely get like a Hindu. And so I've always thought that was interesting that, the Hindu religion has this idea of everything has this like spark of life, this soul, this divinity within it. And then at the same time, it's the same religion that gave us like this caste system with the untouchables and also sati, right? And so I look at things like that and I just think, how did this brutality and this horrors, right? But you have karma, right? You got this karma thing that kind of excuses whatever happens.
So, okay. Now at least you have some disagreements, so we can like talk about this. So, yes, caste system in today's world does not work, and Hinduism. So I think that Hinduism is like a living and breathing religion, that it's constantly changing, and that it started out with various people with the different philosophical and metaphysical beliefs of how the reality worked, right?
Sure.
And then it's just people having collective beliefs, and then, some debate each other, they have dialectics, they have arguments, and then they come to another truth. And it was just a bunch of people, and they have different gods. And so like Hinduism in and of itself is very like differentiated. And I think Hinduism wasn't a thing until you had, Mughal Muslims in the Sultanate, and then you had British colonial, and like who were Muslim and Christian, and then they were like, oh, you guys are Hinduism. I think it's much like, Native Americans didn't call themselves Indians or whatever until someone else told them, hey, you guys are this. So then we're like, oh, yeah, we are Hindus, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally willing to accept for Hindu, as with just about every religion, they're not monolithic. I get it. I'm not saying that, it's like homogenous in some way. I'm just saying that those ideas of the caste system and the idea of like the seti, the burning, if I'm pronouncing it right, those things were coming out of the same culture that was saying don't kill an insect. You know what I mean? It is kind of a dichotomy. Like, I wasn't really trying to argue as much as say, when you were talking about it's weird that they have these attitudes in conjunction with this life is sacred, it reminded me of the things that I object to, that I've also found to be
I agree.
At odds.
The reason I was making that point is just saying that, like, and so, like, Hindu, like, the point is that caste system at the time it was made. So the reason that, like, karma and caste system, it exists to explain why. So, like, there's like that typical problem when you debate atheists, which is why is there evil in the world?
Yeah.
So every religion has come up with its own explanation of why why do people suffer? Why is there evil in the world? And so I think Hinduism's reason is to say, we live, multiple lives, and you probably did something bad in your previous life. That's why you suffer. But it also says in that same text that you shouldn't shame anyone, punish anybody for their previous life. And that it's still our spiritual, higher purpose to like serve everybody.
But they're treated pretty bad.
They don't is the thing. It doesn't matter what the words say.
No. Right. You also have to create you have to separate a religion from like the society that
you can't do that. I mean, I agree it's complex, but I think that religion affects society, and I think society affects religion, and I don't think they can be really separated. I think that you have to acknowledge they're kind of working together.
No, of course. But your criticisms have to be towards, like, it's not, you have a caste system, therefore, like, Hinduism, it's flawed. It is, we have a caste system, and we have a society it's a criticism on the society and their practice of a religion.
Okay, but I mean, at the same time, isn't there aren't the Brahmin the priest caste?
Yes, I am a Brahmin, and I think you guys get a lot.
Okay, so
it's an integrated thing.
America, right? I don't gain socioeconomically from being a Brahmin. It's just a cultural thing.
Wait a minute, but you're not an untouchable. So what do you mean you don't gain from that? Or are you just saying?
America? Wait, if I live in America?
No. Yeah, if you're saying that it's not as revered here as there, I agree. I might have misunderstood you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But So okay, so the point I wanted to make is I think that, and maybe this is like a very romanticized understanding of Hinduism, but I would like to believe that like thousands and thousands of years ago, India was a very, very progressive society, and that to be a quote-unquote fundamentalist would be to be actually very, very progressive. And because if you read ancient Hindu texts, there are a recognition of transgenders, there's a recognition of homosexuals, and while it doesn't say like you have to treat these people well, we do have stories where we have third gendered, which call hijra. I think hijra is a more Arabic term. There's a Sanskrit term that I forget. But they're transgender hijras they have like high membership in like kingdoms. They have like their advisors to the king, and so they're in these very respectable. And so you can draw the conclusion that obviously many of these people must have been.
So your religion gets something right. That doesn't mean.
And maybe it's a very romanticized understanding, and
yes, because I can tell you, I know somebody who is from India, and he's a physician. And he had to change his last name because his last name was indicative of his caste, and he changed it to a higher caste name. So believing that you gain no privilege from your name is...
I think he's saying that you gain privilege from the caste when you live in India, but that doesn't transfer
it's even influencing
the U.S.
It even influenced the way this physician here in America...
Oh, wow, okay.
He was in the United States.
All right.
It influenced his standing in the medical community. So that might be an extreme thing.
And I guess if it's recent, like when there's a lot of Indian people now, yeah, maybe. But In what? And like, I don't know, like, who's he interacting
within the
with?
last couple years. Yeah. It was
Okay,
like,
maybe. I guess so. Another thing I wanted to talk about was, go ahead, just finish.
I think you should pay attention to that. The person who is in the shoes that you're saying, it's not a big deal, is saying it's a big deal, big enough that it has influenced his career, even though he has a medical degree. He has to change his name so that he has credibility in the medical community.
No, I know. I'm on board with eliminating the caste system. As a, like, I'm also very left-wing. I mean, I believe in equality of classes.
I don't think you're hearing me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're all on board with equality, but whether we acknowledge our own privilege is another thing. And I don't hear you acknowledging your privilege.
I will say, when I go to India, I am a privileged person, and maybe here I am privileged. Unless you see yourself being mistreated, I guess you wouldn't know the difference, right? So I could like see that maybe that certain things have been easier for me in the Indian community, being a Brahmin, perhaps.
I can almost guarantee you.
I know that for sure in India. Yeah, maybe. Okay. Like, I don't know, living in Texas, like, I deal with, like, the people I deal with are usually, like, you know, like, white people or Americans.
I was going to say, to be fair, if you're Hindu in Texas, somebody might think you're a Muslim and like...
This is a brown person.
Yeah.
This is a brown person post 9/11. I mean, like, that was not...
I'm sure.
Being a brown person post 9/11 was,
I hear you.
know? So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure. I'm just saying within,
Right.
Okay.
All right. They did tell me when they gave me your call that you were somehow bumped last week. So we'll let you do one more topic, and then I got to move on to some other callers.
Sure. Also, I wanted to talk about God, or what you define God to be, because I think there could be a very secular definition of God.
We do this all the time, but I would rather not take this topic because, yes, there's all kinds of ways that people could define God, but, you know, generally there's already a secular label for it. And people, we usually the response is use the secular term that's more accurate, and
Can
other.
We talk about liberation theology? It was like this. I mean, the idea that like you can use religion, doctrine to like perhaps create a better society politically. So I always believe in like the separation of church and state, but like you integrate your spirituality into your politics. So like when I say that like, you know, all life is like equal, that like you can use that to.
That doesn't require religion. That's secular humanism. I mean, doing all the right things does not require religion. Doing the right things politically, socially, I don't understand why.
I mean, if you're saying that you can further that aim by convincing people through a religion to do it, yes, you can. Like I said, it's a tool, and it's also a weapon that shoots blanks or shoots real bullets. I mean, that's kind of the scary thing. We were talking before the show about how many people call and say, my parents were very liberal, my mom was really liberal, and then when she started to get older, she started going to this church that was less liberal, and now I don't recognize my mom anymore, right? So even when you have somebody that's on the right track, the danger is that if somebody can convince them God wants to do something horrible and bigoted, then they become horrible and bigoted, even if they originally were like pretty open-minded, you know, kind person. And that can happen too. So yes, you could use religion to manipulate people to do positive things, or you can use religion to manipulate people to do very evil things. It just depends partly on the person and partly on the person using the religion to persuade them.
Okay. I think, when you said the word secular humanism, I think that like kind of, maybe. I just like, so when I talk to people on the road, so like obviously my religious beliefs are very directed by my political views, and when I talk about things like global warming it's hard to get through to someone who, well, I think that like at least my religion brings some sort of imperative to like do the right thing, and I understand that I guess people who are atheists can use secular humanism as a philosophical. So I see like my religion provides a philosophical, like it provides me like a philosophy on how to like conduct my everyday life and my political beliefs. So I don't know. I think like we more or less agree on things.
I think
right.
I don't know.
that what it all boils down to is we're social animals. I'm going to do this again. And you can do this too, Tracie, because I've heard you do it too.
I'll let you.
We're social animals, and there are rules to being a social animal. And those rules are going to come forward in some way, no matter what institution you're talking about, whether it's religion or secular humanism or whatever. It's best to be good to others because you may need something from them later.
Yeah.
It's pretty basic.
Yeah, I mean, even other social animals
how do you philosophically convince a CEO, a rich oil company billionaire who's profiting and he finds his pleasures through consumption, spending excess amount of money on his yachts, on his mansion, on his servants? How do you convince someone like that who owns a great deal of political societal power?
I guess the question is, how do you convince him using religion? Right?
Well,
I mean,
if they are religious.
No, if he's religious and he's okay doing what he's doing, how are you going to convince him that's not? If he thinks God's cool with it, how are you going to tell him God's not? Because we don't have a God to ask, right? So
okay, that's a really good question.
If he's a secular humanist, at the very least, we can come at it from a place of reason and say, you did not come by this
here's
money.
the harm that your money's causing, or
because
whatever.
God gave it to you, right? And here's what you're doing.
But if he believes he has that divine right, I mean, what are you going to look at what's been done in the name of divine right?
Holy cats!
Right?
Right. No, of course. Yeah. Right. But I think that that's true. I don't know.
Hey, I'm going to let you go home and think about this a little bit because I've got to get some other callers on.
Yeah, sure.
But I did want to give you some time. You were bumped from last week, so we wanted to give you some special status here. So appreciate your call.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Okay.